give them a shot to do what?
Woo! Yes, sir.
What's up, bro? We back. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Protect Our Queens podcast presented by the Give Us a Shot Network. With me, as always, my brother in Christ, Martin Sories. Did you enjoy the weekend? Memorial Day weekend. Did you have some fun?
I did. Well, relaxed. Like I said, I wasn't there for your 21st birthday. I planned to be there, but at my age, you got to take it day by day, moment by moment, one thing at a time. And so I chose rest and relaxation and reset, which is,
as you should,
very important in the kind of life that I lead. So yeah, I got some much needed rest. But you turned 21, man. The weekend was about you, man. How you feeling? I saw the baby blue suit out, the birthday dance going. The vibes.
It was good, bro. We had a lot of fun. We had the party. The party was great. Friends were there, family was there. It was a good time. And then me and my homies, we went to Hooters just for the sake of saying I went to Hooters.
Okay, Hooters.
Got a drink. It was nice. Went to MGM, which is around the corner from where I live, with my high school friends that came. One of my friends, he bought a shot of Crown Royal. I almost died. We went down to like this place was like right by the airport where like the planes come into land. We saw a couple planes land. It was really close. I thought that was actually pretty cool. Came home, and then it was good, bro. I think all things considered, it was a great birthday, and I didn't get drunk, which is what I spent all of last year saying wouldn't happen, and I'm glad that I didn't do that. So I'm good. I'm good.
Well, a bit different from how this tale of my 21st birthday would go, but I'm just glad you got yourself a legal drink out here and had a good time with your friends and family. Another year of life, man. Dwayne Marcus Jr. Moving on up in the ranks. Moving on up in the ranks. But I saw a picture of your dad on Facebook for the first time. I didn't know that you guys were identical twins. I didn't know that. Yeah, but man, I saw Dwayne Marcus. I said, "Whoa!" I did. I'm like, that's the Dwayne Marcus.
Yeah, the original, the one and only. Absolutely, man. There's a lot to talk about tonight, man. We got Caitlin Clark, underrated players. Kahleah Copper, who you put in your top 10 a couple weeks ago. There's a lot to talk about. I got the tiers coming back. I want to get right into it. Let's have some fun, man. Let's have some fun.
Protect our queens.
No matter what it takes, we must protect our queen.
I mean, I just love playing the game. It's fun.
I'm reacting on what the defender does.
I hit them with a hezzy. After that, they quit.
Yeah, I think I've always just been able to get downhill. So I've sort of prided myself on that.
I know what I'm doing. Like, people can't tell me I'm not doing the right. Like, I've been taught the right way.
What a time. What a time.
It's a great time to be a basketball fan, as you always say. Women's basketball fan in general. It's a great time. And obviously a big focal point of women's basketball, of the WNBA this season, as we talked about in our preview show, has been Caitlin Clark. And the conversation surrounding Caitlin Clark has certainly evolved over the past couple of days. So we're going to toss it to a clip of Elle Duncan, and then we're going to respond and kind of react to what we have going on tonight.
What are you looking for? I'm so tired of it. It just makes no sense to me. And I'm tired that we keep giving it so much energy. And I'm tired of it being people who are not in this circle or space at all, who suddenly have all these opinions about how these women need to treat Caitlin Clark. What do you want from them? They want to beat her because she's not on their team. Isn't that how it's supposed to be? Yeah. Y'all stop it. We already know she's transformational. They've all said it. How many times do they gotta say it?
Go off, Elle. Go off.
Shout out Elle Duncan coming with a full on. I don't want to call it a tirade, man, but I felt like it was kind of like a tirade. She's just kind of putting those people in their places. This Caitlin Clark hate conversation has certainly evolved over the past couple of days, and we've talked about it in bits and pieces. But like, what are your thoughts on the recent comments of, like, you know, obviously LeBron and Charles Barkley and so many others about WNBA players, that this narrative that there's players in the WNBA that hate Caitlin Clark?
Yeah, shout out to also shout out to people watching live. David Burns watching from Cedar Hill, Texas. Much love. Anyone in the comments, much love. Join the conversation as you're listening and watching. Feel free to leave comments as we get into the conversation. And yeah, the best part of that clip was Elle Duncan saying that people expect players to give Caitlin their firstborn child. That was the best part. I didn't pull the best part of her rant. That was like the back end of it. But that was my favorite part, because she really went off. But that's why there was so much emotion there, because it's very frustrating. And I kind of touched on it last week before we talked to All-American point guard Hannah Hidalgo, who we had on last week. And I just kind of briefly did our before we start pre-show little piece mentioning that, how I just feel like it's interesting that there's so much discourse, and it's like something we've, like, when I say we as people who enjoyed the WNBA already and we're women's basketball fans already, we were looking forward to this big shift of a lot of new fans we knew were coming in because of Caitlin, because of Angel, and and so we were looking forward to that. But also, like, the discourse has just become so interesting, because I think that's what is frustrating about it, is just the idea that, like, it's like she was saying, who are these people? And of course she was specifically responding to LeBron and Barkley. Their comments became really public. And I think, to get specific on like what LeBron said and what LeBron and Barkley said were two different things. Like they went about it in two different ways.
Yeah.
So I don't want to group them together. But the one thing that stuck out to me about what LeBron said was, like, it was on his podcast with JJ Redick, and he said, like, you know, he was like, make no mistake about it, Caitlin is the reason why they're getting all this attention. And, you know, not to get too specific and into language and semantics, but all you got to do is throw in one of the reasons, or the biggest reason, or the main reason, because she's not the sole only reason. Even when we talk about the Caitlin Clark effect, I was talking about this on Twitter with somebody. The Caitlin Clark effect only applies when the Indiana Fever are playing. She doesn't get credit for the Chicago Sky and New York Liberty game being sold out. She doesn't get credit for people showing up in LA. They're there to see Cameron Brink. They're there to see other people. Now, like, and that's why, like, Tina Charles, who I saw in a clip, TMZ came up to her in like the airport or something. She had one of the best responses I've heard. And she was real calm and cool about it. And they asked her straight up about the Caitlin Clark effect. And she was just like, I think it's a mix of both. She credited the whole generation. It's not obviously every member of this draft class that's getting all this attention. It's a few key people, but she gave credit to the whole. She's like, yeah, you know, it's Caitlin, but there's other people too, and she's in it. Like, she's seeing it for herself. So for people out here acting like you see people in comments like, we didn't care about Asia Wilson before Caitlin Clark got there. What are you talking about? Like, so, and then you expect these women, as Elle Duncan, like, that's why she had to go off, because it's like, what do you actually like? For one, a lot of them gave Dawn Staley herself has said ad nauseum how much she has helped our game, grown our game. And any women who's playing right now can attest to that. But they can't every time they see the girl, they shouldn't be screaming that, like, everyone keeps talking about they should be thanking her for the charter flight. Thank her. What? Yeah. You literally, that's what you want. You want them to, like, send her a text like, hey, Caitlin, thank you so much for getting us charter flight. We really appreciate it. Like, is that, even if they do that, or if they don't have to tell us they did it. Like, that's on them to do. Like, that's not on us to tell them, like, yo, make sure you guys show gratitude to that girl, because she, you know, because for one, it's not just her, and two, bruh, it's not that serious. Like, they don't have to do that. Plus, they out there killing her anyway, so she still has to earn some level of, like, respect and stardom. But she's getting credit. They're giving them credit for what they're doing. We all see what's going on, including the players, because they're the main ones part of it.
So I have two, like, there's two big things that I've taken away from this entire thing. The first thing is Indiana Fever specific. Because obviously it's somewhat common knowledge at this point. Aaliyah Boston, and she's even addressed it, is no longer on social media because of all of the hate that her and the team have been getting because of they're now 1-5, but before that they were 0-5 and they were searching for the first win. And everyone but Caitlin Clark was getting all of the blame because all the Caitlin Clark and all the new WNBA fans were blaming coaches and players and all this other stuff. And I just want to point out, and I don't want, I'm not trying to be funny, but like I mean this so seriously, but it's a funny thing to have to, it's ironic to have to point this out. Just because you're new to the WNBA, I assume you people are not new to the way that sports work, right? When you had the number 1 overall pick in one season, odds are you weren't good the year before, right? Unless maybe it's a one-off or maybe you trade with the team that has their own pick. The Indiana Fever didn't just pick first overall this season. They picked first overall last season too.
You know what number they picked the year before that?
And the year before that, they picked 3 or 2.
It was 2. Melissa Smith,
like,
number 2.
It's not been a good basketball team over the past couple of seasons. So when you're watching the Fever play basketball and you're seeing Caitlin Clark set the record for most turnovers ever in a rookie debut, when you're seeing Aaliyah Boston struggle in this new role for her, because this is a new role. This is probably the first time in Aaliyah Boston's playing career of basketball where she's not the main attraction, right? That probably, like when Aaliyah Boston became Aaliyah Boston in South Carolina, that probably wasn't the case, right? Best player on the team. She's not the best pro on this team right now. It's Caitlin Clark, and this is new for her. It's new to have to defer to someone else, and she's growing in that, right?
I think it's more of the style of play than the like I'm not the best player on the team anymore, which was like, yeah.
Head coach Kirstie Sides, guess what? She's also new to this. This is her second season. Like, this team is young. This team is going to make mistakes. Like, you have to give it time. And so when we go back to the whole Cheryl Swoops thing and how we came on the show right after that, and I said very blatantly, if you are going to set all these super high expectations for Caitlin Clark, don't be surprised if she's not showing up day one and meeting those expectations, because it's unrealistic to think Caitlin Clark's going to walk into the WNBA, dropping 30 bombs left and right and just running the league. That's not how it works. I think the other thing that this conversation has shown, and something that you and I have talked about, and something that a lot of fans in this space have talked about, is there's a lot of people that just discredit the WNBA so badly that because they did not respect the WNBA so much up until this point, that they're surprised that Caitlin has been struggling or has not been efficient or has not, hit the ground running immediately in these first handful of games. And as a result, the fans are the ones that are projecting they need to be thanking Caitlin Clark for the charter flights. They be thanking Caitlin Clark for the sold out. But to your point, and Camila Cardozo said this, she's alive the other day, all of the Chicago Sky games are sold out. The Las Vegas Aces, all of their season tickets sold out. Dallas Wings, all their season tickets sold out. Atlanta Dream, all their season tickets sold out. And Martin, last I checked, Caitlin Clark plays in Indiana. So while it's obviously an accomplishment, and it's obviously impressive when you have teams like the Mystics, when you have teams like the Aces who are moving to bigger venues for their games against the Fever. That is the Caitlin Clark effect. Yes. Yeah. The Fever selling out season tickets. That is the Caitlin Clark effect. Yes. But to say that Caitlin Clark is the sole reason why the Wings are selling out tickets, why the Dream are selling out tickets, why the Aces are selling out tickets, and why there's all these eyes on the game, it's disingenuous and it's disrespectful, both to the players who are already in the league and also to the other superstar players that were in this draft. Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso, who we haven't seen play yet, but we'll be playing our first game on Saturday. Rakia Jackson, so forth and so on. Like, I get it. Caitlin Clark is a box office attraction, probably the biggest box office attraction in sports right now. I got it. But she, by herself, is not the reason. And to be completely honest with you, she's 22 years old, and it's unfair to put all of that weight on her shoulders. And she's still
And I saw a comment. Someone said she changed the game. From a basketball sense, we still have yet to see what she has done to change the game, because her biggest influence on the game is her 3-point shooting. That's the Steph Curry effect comparison. That's where, we're not going to get too much into the basketball in this particular conversation. But I've had a lot of basketball conversations over the last couple of weeks about Caitlin, the coach, the team, Aaliyah, the system. And I do think there are some really interesting things there. But we won't see, and we won't really know if she's changed the game basketball wise as far as the product of women's basketball for another like 3 to 5 years, because we saw how Steph Curry and the Warriors put an extreme onus on 3-point shooting, changed the entire NBA, small ball, right? So again, that would be me going into the nitty gritty of the details of their system and what they're actually doing with Caitlin, because I talked about that a lot, about what are they actually looking for Caitlin to do as far as being point guard versus hybrid guard, which she can be both. But, I've talked about that a lot because that matters as far as even what kind of product they're putting out there, because we're kind of seeing early on, Caitlin is the system. They are kind of adapting and adjusting to her. So that is a real thing. But as far as like, again, she is the main reason. She's the main reason. She's the biggest name. And it's mainly, like I've said before, and it's not a shot. Steph Curry fans hate when I say all the time, but it's like, we don't call him the best point guard ever. We don't call him the best passer ever. We don't call him the best scorer ever. We don't call him the best guard ever. He's the best shooter ever. And it's not an insult. It's a fact. Like, don't come at me for that. Caitlin, the main thing is the deep 3-point shooting. So as even in the games, we've both been watching games, as she gets her 3-ball going, you see that's when the crowd goes up. That's when you see the Caitlin Clark effect start. It's the 3-point shooting. It's the deep 3-point shooting. So, and not to say that's the only thing about her game. I've talked about a lot how her pace is underrated. The way she pushes the ball, that's part of what I think they're adjusting to playing with her. Her passing, as anyone who watches her knows that she can really pass the ball at a high level. But I do think just when you like, Caitlin is the main reason. Yeah. And it's like, it's also, bro, like, let's just celebrate it. Like, why is there so much, like, why are you guys so upset about people not praising this girl for like, again, everyone's giving her credit. Everyone is marveling over like how great this is, but like, you can't expect the people competing against her to be the main people singing her praises night in and night out, and just like falling to their knees, kissing the ring, as L. Duncan said, and just acknowledging her as like, oh my God, she's changing things. But you brought up Las Vegas, like Vegas has been changing the culture. New York Liberty changing their culture. Like we had Battle of the Super Teams last year. That was before Caitlin even got here. So it was a combination of the momentum the league already had with the talent, this amazing, extraordinary talent that I've been talking about since over a year ago that is coming into the league, and that will still be coming into the league in the foreseeable future. Because it's not just, as I keep trying to remind people, it ain't just Caitlin, it ain't just Paige, it ain't just Cam Brink, it ain't just Angel Reese. There are more coming that you guys can't possibly imagine. This is only the beginning, I promise you.
And again, going back to your point about the momentum from last season, like we're talking about, when we book into the season, if I'm not mistaken, game 3 and 4 of the finals last year were sold out. And up until the game against the Sky, I think that the Sky or the Fever that they had in New York, that game against the Aces in the finals was the attendance record for Barclays for a Liberty game, right? So going back to the league not getting the respect it deserves, there's a lot of people who just show up and they want to hit the same old arguments over and over again. Oh, the WNBA is losing money every year and all this and all that. But it's like, right, but like you're just saying that because you hear other people saying that though. But you're not actually tapped into the product and seeing the growth of the game and seeing how much hype was around the league just like kind of how this season, before a ball was bounced this season, there was a lot of hype into the season. Before a ball was bounced last season, just because of all the free agency moves and in the offseason, there was so much hype about can't wait to see Ace Liberty, and then we got it, right? And so you go from that to at the very end of that season, we're looking at it like, man, who's stopping the Aces? And that was the momentum. And then you couple that with Angel and Caitlin coming in. That's what it is. It's not just, it's just these, the WNBA will be chopped liver without Caitlin Clark. Like, that's not what it is. And
I have people coming up to me like, why isn't there more people talking about the Angel Reese effect?
Yeah.
I have people asking me like, hey, I know about Caitlin already. Why does it seem like it seems like Angel is out? They see Angel at with Meg Thee Stallion and Glorilla with her teammates becoming a part owner of a club team in DC. Angel, and they're like, I feel like people are asking me like, how come so David Dennis Jr. has a great article out. I encourage anyone who hasn't read, I sent it to you. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but I encourage anyone out there to read this article. David Dennis Jr. It's on Anscape.com. It's called "Who Are We Protecting Caitlin Clark From?" And he gets into all of the like details, like just really well. Like he's not taking a side or anything. He just does a really good job of explaining just even the socioeconomics and the things that go into like why this discourse is even happening this way.
Yeah. I did read that article. It was a great article. I love articles like that don't take sides, that just lay out the facts and like do with that information as you will type of thing. Let's get into the most underrated player in the W. We're going to toss it to another clip and come back and have that conversation.
So think about it, bro. When these girls, Paige is a phenomenon. She's a worldwide phenomenon already at UConn. There has to be a momentum transfer. Think about when those girls, all the names you said, they're not even there yet. They're still in college and they're phenoms.
So many more that are going to come.
When they get to the league, bro, the league needs to be ready. They better be ready, bro. I'm telling you, because these girls are bigger than what they've been used to, and the talent is spicier than what they've been used to, and it needs to be marketed and nurtured the right way. They have to be ready, bro. Throwback. That was
Goat Talk. Goat Talk with Marcus archives right there, man. There's a lot of talent in this league. As you mentioned, there's a lot of talent coming into the league in the foreseeable future. But if we just focus on the talent in the league right now, Martin Sories, who would you say is the most underrated player in the WNBA?
Man, it's tough because I feel like there are some very good candidates for this. And I think we were talking about this because we saw a tweet that some women's basketball account tweeted this, and we saw a lot of interesting replies. If we're talking about obviously the season, we're only like 5 or 6 games in, so it's like, sample size and everything. But as a whole, if I'm thinking about players that I feel like are underrated, I guess the main thing I'm thinking about is like not talked about enough, not on like the radar of where I feel like they should be, as far as what level I think they're at. I have Marina Mabry's name down, but I also think she's having her breakout season right now that, Chaz Franklin came on the show and told us that she would have this season. Yep. So it's hard I don't know if I could say she's underrated yet, because I think people are still finding out about her.
Sure.
I have Nafisa's name down because I feel like it's another thing where I think people are still learning about her, though. I think she's still she had such a great comeback year last year, and she's so elite so far this year. But I think she deserves a little underrated recognition because I don't think we hear or talk about her enough yet. Probably, I think if I pick one, the most underrated player right now, as far as all the things I talked about, I'm going with Ryan Howard. I am, because as I talked about, I think maybe a couple weeks ago on the show, in our preview for the season, she's one player I'm looking to have a big season. I want to see her dominate because she has all the skills to do so. Mm-hmm. She's been dominant. She's obviously a number 1 pick from a few years ago. Pound for pound, I think she could make an argument as the most offensively skilled player in the W. And with all these great things that, you're a big Ryan Howard person. I am. Anyone who watches her game is just who doesn't love her game.
Yeah.
And yet I still don't think we hear her praised or talked about or highlighted enough. So as far as underrated, there may be people listen, I left her off my top 10 players. So maybe I'm underrating her, but I told you I took issue with that, with the fact that it was a challenge, of course. And she was right there under, I was fighting to get her in, but I took issue with the fact that I couldn't confidently just put her in there, which is why I want her to have a very loud and dominant season. But I think I'm going with Ryan Howard, most underrated player right now. I think that's fair. I think it's fair to call her underrated still.
Yeah, I would agree with that line of thinking as well, that it's definitely still fair. I think because she hasn't tapped into all of what we know that she could tap in potentially to get her to that point where she's universally regarded as top 10, top 7, top 5, whatever. My underrated play, as soon as you sent me the tweet, and I think Women's Hoops Network on Twitter is who tweeted it. My immediate reaction was, I know she's hurt, but Shakira Austin. And I think the reason why I would consider her to be underrated is because she's been hurt. She had the hip injury that kept her out for much of last season. It's been bothering her a bit this season. She's played some games. She's not played some games because of the hip. And a part of it's because of the injury, but also because I think, and I said this before the season, I think this can be a big year for her just because of the circumstances that she's in Washington right now, right? Natasha Cloud is obviously no longer there. She's in Phoenix now. Elena De La Don, who is the best player on the team, is taking a break from basketball for at least this year. You're bringing in Aaliyah Edwards, and I think that Shakira Austin has all of the tools for this to be her team, right? Like she is, I think, especially if she can get a full season of basketball or a good chunk of basketball on her belt where you can see it and consistently, I think she should be and will eventually be looked at as one of the best post defenders in the game. Like she's just that good. Like she is not afraid of anybody. Their home opener against the Liberty, she was sending shots back left and right into the rafters. Like there's no defensive matchup for her down low that I've looked at and I'd be like, wow, like she's probably not going to do well. And even if you do have one of those things where like maybe she's not going to do well, she still shows up, rises to the occasion, and ends up winning that matchup defensively. Offensively, she's gotten a lot better. Her game is a lot more fluid. She's pushing the ball up the floor, like running the floor with the ball in her hands a lot more, like tapping into that little bit of guard. I know when she was, I remember hearing her in an interview one day, or a couple months ago, talking about how when she was coming up, she played guard a lot, and so she tries to get into that as much as possible. Like I think the big reason why we don't talk about Shakira Austin enough is because of the hip injury that she's been dealing with for last season, now coming into this season. You give Shakira Austin a fully healthy season of basketball. We're talking at least 30 games, let's say, just give 10 for whatever. You look at Shakira Austin after 30 games, and I think at her best in this system with what they have going on right now, where she is pretty much, she's not like the best player on the team right now. I would still say Ariel Atkins is the best player on the team, just because she's definitely, she's risen to that role at this point. She's been doing a lot more facilitating than what she's used to, right? It's the joke within the team. She went from being Lil A when she first got there to now she's Big A because of how young the team is. But like Shakira Austin, I think if you just give her a fully healthy season of basketball, and I think that can still be this season despite the game she's missed this year, we can start talking about her the way that I think she deserves to be, which is one of the best post defenders in the game. And as a big, like she's very versatile, like very versatile. Like she can put the ball on the floor, she can drive, she has some dribble moves in her bag. Like I think Shakira Austin is, because of injury and because she hasn't really been able to be out there frequently and consistently since her rookie season, I would say she's most underrated in the WNBA right now.
I think that's fair. I think another reason to say, which I think is interesting, that she may be underrated is because we have so many talented bigs in the league. And I think the main reason is what you pointed on. Like she just hasn't been out there enough. When you do see her out there, you definitely see flashes of special with those things that you talked about that she does really well. And you see flashes of special, like special impact player at her position. And she would be in that conversation of like the depth of pool talent that we have when it comes to bigs in the WNBA. And I think even while healthy, that's a kind of a hard thing to break into, because you have, I mean, obviously at the very top, Asia Wilson, who is setting like a ridiculous standard at the power forward position right now on both ends of the floor. She's so elite. So she sets such a standard. Then you've got so many versatile, dual forwards, hybrid posts, Stewie types. And you've got so many different kinds of talented bigs, but Shakira Austin, I think that's fair to say, if she's healthy, she would easily be more, in that conversation. And I think you could talk about a lot of other bigs that may be underrated as well for that reason,
I think, and I'll be honest, when I really sat down and started to dissect it, there are some other names that popped up. They didn't pop out on
has NECA become a little underrated? Averaging, I was looking at she's averaging 21 and 13 for Seattle so far. I didn't even realize
interesting. I was just about to say, I think NECA, just because she's kind of entering like the latter parts of her career, where like we're not really talking about her much, but like You look up and she's averaging like 20 and 10 or 20 and 12, whatever it is. Like, oh yeah, like Nneka's really good at basketball, and a lot of people don't think of. Your point about bigs, it's interesting because like a couple months ago, towards the beginning of the show, we talked a lot about unicorns, right? And we listed like how there are just at that spot, like you've got Asia, you've got Stewie, you've got Elena Della Don. We talk about maybe even putting Satu Sabli as like a mini unicorn into that frame, but I think again, if she's on the court enough, like we could start having that conversation with Shakira Austin, just because I think she has that versatility to be able to be in that conversation. And Asia Wilson, to your point, like I know she's the best player in the league, and I know that most people on the planet recognize that, but like even sometimes you look at Asia Wilson, you're like, really? Like that's what we're doing. Like really? Like I watched that game this week, and she comes into half. I think it was on Saturday. She comes into half with 22.7 boards. She finishes the game 29 and 15, shooting 67% from the field. Like, geez. But you watch Asia play the game, and it's like, you wouldn't think she had 29 points. It's just so easy to her. So maybe I don't know. Like I think she's just hit that stride. Asia she's just hit that like part in her career where it's just easy to her, and that's what's scary. I saw a thing earlier today. I bookmarked it for the show. She's like, first of all, she's the only player right now averaging 25 and 10 this season. She's the only player with double-doubles every game played so far. The only player ranked top 3 in 2 major categories. For her, it's points and rebounds. She leads all players with 20.10 rebound double-doubles. She's one of 2 players to score at least 20 every game played. One of 4 players averaging 20 points while shooting 50% or above. And one of 7 players averaging 2 blocks. And your face was my exact face reading this tweet. Because you look back and you watch the games and you're like, you wouldn't think that that's happening. But it is. Like, and so I don't think Asia's underrated, because I think, again, like most of us will look at her and say, like, yeah, she's the best player in the league. Yeah, right. But you read out stuff like that and you're like, there's no way.
Like, are we not? It's crazy. It's like, are we not talking about Asia? Are we somehow not talking about Asia?
Somehow,
like, man, I saw someone say this. I don't think it was you, and I don't think we even touched on this, because I don't think it was you who I saw say this, but it made me think of you, because I was like, man, I'm surprised Dwayne Marcus didn't say that to me first. If the Aces win this year, and if Asia wins MVP, the combination of that, like if she wins regular season MVP and they win, they get the 3-peat. Isn't Asia top 5 all time? Like automatically? I mean, she may have a case right now, but like maybe top 3 all time, top 3.
Yeah, the first 3-peat since the beginning of the league and another MVP. That's top 5, bro.
She's top 5 all time, like for sure.
Because I think right now she's in the top 10. You just look at the resume right now.
She's in the top 10. Yeah.
So yeah, a 3-peat, the first 3-peat since the Comets did it at the beginning of the season's inception. And what would it be? 3 MVPs in 5 years?
Don't throw a Finals MVP in there.
Plus, we're talking about she's a back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year also. So like,
yeah, no.
She could
top 5 now. If she ain't top 5 now, that'll solidify. If she gets the MVP, 3-peat, Finals MVP, bro. 3-peat, top 3. Give me the 3. 3's up, bro. She'll be top 3. Whoever you want at 1, Candace, Diana, Maya, whatever. Whoever your 3, Asia's in the top 3. If it goes down this year, that's it.
When you look, and I texted you this during that first game, and how she was coming off at the first game, I texted Martin. I was like, bro, just go ahead and give her an MVP and D point now. Like, she's just looking crazy. Now, obviously, there's other players that have since looked a little bit better as far as MVP is concerned. But, like, from a defensive standpoint, have we seen – and I pulled this card when we talked about her winning MVP and Defensive Player of the Year before Protect Our Queen started, when you and I were talking on GOAT Talk about how she was potentially going to do something that's never been done before, which is win both awards in the same season back-to-back. Have we ever, in the history of basketball, seen a player win 3 Defensive Player of the Years and at least 2 MVPs in 3 consecutive seasons? I don't think that's ever happened before.
Yeah, no.
Because again, you have to talk about how many players have won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year at least once in the same season, and that list is pretty short.
List. Yeah,
and I don't think anyone's done that twice. So to have 2 MVPs and 3 consecutive Defensive Player of the Year, like, what we're seeing from her defensively over the last potentially 3 seasons, it's unprecedented in the sport.
Yeah.
Like, she's been undeniably the best defender in the league. I would say by far for the last going on 3 seasons. Right, we show a lot of love to Kahleah Copper and Natasha Cloud and some of those other, guards.
Yeah,
Really
Harrington is coming up as a fan favorite defender now.
And we love all of them, and they deserve it.
Yeah.
But A'ja Wilson defensively she's in a different stratosphere when you talk about what she does on both sides of the ball, which is why, and we talk about this on the show, my big push for her winning MVP last season was she's also the defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to say that Stewie matches what she does offensively, got you. Fine. If you want to say that Alyssa Thomas does things that no one else does with the triple doubles, got you. But neither of them or anyone else impacts winning. I'm not just talking about impacting a game. No one else in the WNBA impacts winning on the defensive side of the ball the way that A'ja Wilson does. So you might be right, bro. A three-peat, another MVP, and or another defensive player of the year. She'll likely be found as MVP again. Top 3. You might be right. That's top 3, man.
And you did, man. What you did say to me, I'm pretty sure it was in our season preview show. You did say that you were looking forward to seeing specifically how Vegas and A'ja specifically were going to come out.
Yeah.
Following up from it, it actually might have been when we were reacting to Candace's retirement, because you were saying specifically like, "Yo, there's no way A'ja didn't pick up so much game from just that 1 year with Candace." Just spending that time with her, you really said it well. Just like how that time, whatever advice. Of course, no team has repeated since the Comets, and Candace has never done it. But the fact that Candace was part of the repeat, and the fact that whatever A'ja and the organization and those players picked up from Candace, it is carrying over into this season, no doubt. I mean, they have a whole shrine for her in the locker room. They're acting like she's still there. So they're keeping the Candace energy among them as they go for the three-peat. So you did a nice job kind of pointing that out, because you do see it when you look for a team. Repeating is hard. Three-peating, who knows? I mean, that just seems like almost impossible. I mean, just in terms of the motivation, you know what it takes to do it, but like so much sacrifice, so much discipline, so much unselfishness, and it's hard to replicate that same thing, like when you don't have the same hunger when you're going after it for the first time, like having to replicate that's hard. So when you watch a team like like the Nuggets or like the Warriors, when you're watching teams like repeat the Aces last year, watching them right now, they look like a team ready to three-peat. And Chelsea Gray has not even played yet, so Lord have mercy. They've got three of their their big 3 averaging over 20. The only team with three players averaging at least 20. No surprise there, because all 3 of them were in our top 10 players in the WNBA that we listed. But man, I mean, when you look at like, okay, are they ready to? Does this look like a team ready? Yeah, they look ready to do it. They look ready. I mean, again, Chelsea Gray's not playing yet, so we're not even seeing them in full form yet, and they still look championship ready.
Speaking of our top 10s that we dropped a week or 2 weeks ago now at this point, there is one player in particular that was in your top 10 that was not in my top 10, and that is Miss Kahleah Copper. She has been on fire this season. Let's toss it back to Martin talking about Kahleah Copper a couple weeks ago.
I have Kahleah Copper at 9.
She's not in my top 10.
I didn't think she would be, but she's a top 10 player for me.
She would, if we were going down to 15, she'd be in my top 15.
Yeah, I'm giving her top 10 player. I think her and Becky Young are the 2 best two-way players in the league right now. She was the top 10 scorer last year. Like I'm giving Ka top 10 right now. Hey, not to put you on the spot, but how are you feeling so far about not having Kahleah Copper in your top 10? Any walkbacks, any regrets so far?
No, because she was 11 on my list. So it's not like she was like she's like 14. No, she was 11. I was just like you. I was struggling between Ryan Howard and Kahleah Copper. I just gave the nod to Ryan because I'm big guard, big fan. I love what I see from her. I will say this though. This is one thing that I do regret. And obviously I know the talent that is Kahleah Copper on the basketball court. I did not expect that switch to flip so quickly.
I hear you.
I will say that I thought it would take them. I with all the new pieces, not just her, but just like with all the new pieces of Phoenix coming in, you're bringing in all these new players. BG's obviously not there now, and I think that does she's because of the injury with the leg. So I think that does attribute to it. But like, I didn't expect her to come out of the gate and drop 37 and then 38. Like I didn't expect that. I thought we would be seeing that once we kind of got into the groove of the season. But we're 6-7 games into the season right now. I know we just spent some time, ranting and raving about A'ja Wilson, but if we're voting on an MVP right now, I feel like that would have to be Kahleah Copper. She's in the mix.
She's got to be in the conversation.
She's in the conversation for sure. Just the way that she started the season off. Absolutely.
Yeah, she's the hottest player, best scorer right now. She's leading the league in scoring. Was it 20? I think she's averaging 27 or 28 a game right now. On like over 45% 3-point shooting. I think it's at 47, and she's taking 7 threes a game. Yeah. So her entire offensive arsenal is opening up. Shout out to Nikias Duncan, who's one of the best to do it out there, breaking down the game. And he did a great job breaking down some of the looks that Kahleah Copper is getting in Phoenix, and giving the head coach Nate Tibbetts some love, because he got a lot of flack, with that hire. And we're seeing what he can do, and we're seeing what he can do now, which is what was my only reaction to the hire. I'm like, let's see what he can draw up. Let's see what he can do. The spacing for Phoenix is tremendous right now, the spacing that they're playing with. And I think part of it is the fact that BG is out. So I think they may still go 4 out, 1 in when they get BG back. But I think the fact that they're really going 4 guards, sometimes 5 guards, they have some versatility and flexibility with players like Rebecca Allen, Sophie Cunningham, who are kind of like a little taller, but also can stretch the floor. So, Nikias did a great video showing the sets, really highlighting the spacing and how Kahleah Copper is benefiting from that.
Yeah.
Just the open space. Diana Taurasi, I talked about when we first reacted to kind of the trade and Kahleah being in Phoenix, I talked about how especially Kahleah, but also Natasha Cloud, Rebecca Allen, those additions, those were such great supplementary pieces for Diana Taurasi at this stage in her career. And very early on, 5-6 games in, small sample size, but DT is leading the league in 3-pointers right now. I think that's a testament.
First game of the season.
Right. So that clearly bumped it up. Like that gave her a big boost. But I think that's a testament to the fact that she can play that role. Not that she's going to just be relegated to a catch and shoot player, but you don't need Diana Taurasi in this late in her career acting like she is the best player, shooting volume shots. Let Kahleah Copper do all that. Let her do the hard work. Let her come off the pin downs and be the volume scorer player. Then you got DT, one of the best to ever do it, one of the greatest shooters ever, who can just play in that kind of backseat role and find spots. So again, between the spacing, I told you, I had listened to some of Kahleah Copper's media day press conference, because I really was interested to hear like what she was saying about the organization, what they're saying to her, how they're embracing her, and particularly how Diana Taurasi was embracing her. She said her and DT were in the gym like every morning when she got there. So, and DT had nothing but great things to say about her. DT seems to be embracing like Natasha Cloud as well. Like I just think the identity of the Mercury is interesting. They're getting to, so they're top, like I've told you, like teams the last few years, the Aces have obviously been winning the championship. The team leading the W in scoring has been winning the title the last few years. It's just, there's a correlation. I can't make this stuff up. It's just how the team who's won is also the team who happens to be leading the league in scoring.
Yeah.
The magic number is 90. Right. So even when you look at Indiana and their struggles, they've only gotten to 85, I think, once, or they're struggling to get to 85. I talked on here. Actually, I talked on my show about their scoring and how their output as far as offense in years past, how they've been struggling to get to even 80 points a game. They struggled last year just getting to 80. So it's something in W right now. You've got to be able to score. Vegas can get to 90, 95. Right. Phoenix, they're averaging 88. They're top 3 in scoring right now. So that's on their side. And again, the coaching, I think the spacing, and Kahleah Copper, I'm with you. I didn't think she was going to get this loose this early, but they're embracing her. They're establishing her as their go-to best player. Her athleticism is just on. She's one of the greatest, one of the best athletes in the league. And you see that in how she creates shots with her quickness, with her body contortion, midair, her finishing at the rim. Like, bro, it's really scary what we're seeing from her right now. I had her as top 10 coming in. I thought that was a no-brainer,
Sure.
But I'm with you. I didn't think she was going to be this explosive this soon with her new team.
When we go back to that conversation we had with Chaz, and in the conversation that we kind of started before we had Chaz on, because when all the moves happened, about whether or not Phoenix was a contender. And then you come out in the first 6 games of the season, and Kahleah Copper is, as I like to say, off a perk 30, like just going nuts out here, right? DT is getting comfortable in her role. I was interested to see what the fit of what Natasha Cloud would be, and then also if there would be any adjustments to Sophie Cunningham's role at all with all the new additions. It's been great. You talked about Rebecca Allen. Obviously, the big piece that's missing in this is BG because of the injury. When you put BG back in this lineup, though, should there be any concerns about there being a drop off a bit in whether it's the efficiency from Ka or the reliableness of DT as in that catch and shoot kind of role, or or is this one of those things where like we should be looking at Phoenix and kind of talking about them a little bit more legitimately now that we've seen them actually play ball as being a legit championship contender? Because that's always the one thing that I think about when you have these situations in basketball where like a very important piece of the puzzle is missing, but the team is still being successful in doing a great, like the Celtics, for example, right? They're walking through the Eastern Conference. Injuries aside, they're walking through the Eastern Conference, but there's no Kristaps Porzingis. So like if and when he comes back for the finals, like how is that going to affect Jason Tatum's game? How will that affect Jaylen Brown's game, right? Similarly, I'm looking at Phoenix. I'm like, okay, like I like what I'm seeing from Kyle, I like what I'm seeing from Phoenix, but like when BG comes back, how is that going to affect the rhythm that all of these guards have started to get into because of, as you mentioned, all that space? Because as much as we love BG and it sounds that she's not creating space. That's not her, like that's not her thing. So when she's on the floor with that 4 out 1 in, that limits the space a little bit for players like Kahleah Copper who operate best when there's space to be able to function and do their damage.
Yeah, BG helps with spacing because she can shoot the ball. She does have 15 to 18 foot range shooting the ball, so she can help with spacing in that way. In terms of pace and tempo, that's not where your pace slows down, naturally with someone like BG on the floor for sure. But I think that's a fair question, but I do think it's going to be to their benefit. The fact that Kahleah Copper is in this kind of explosive rhythm early, and people are still establishing their roles, whether it's leadership in Natasha Cloud, perimeter scoring with Kahleah Copper, Sophie Cunningham, Rebecca Allen being those kind of dual forward threats that can space the floor, that can guard different positions. I think their perimeter roles that are being established, especially with Kahleah and her getting so comfortable being the best player, the go-to player for the Phoenix Mercury, I think that's only going to help them when BG comes back. Because I do think there are elements of the spacing, like with going 4 out 1 in BG, I think that can be beneficial for everybody. Of course, you got to have her bought in. You have to have buy-in from her. But I think if you have that, I think it's only going to make them more dangerous, more explosive. I'll say this lastly, because again, with look at LeBron, same thing, like with your aging superstar who is still really effective. It's something I talked about on my show with LeBron and the Lakers that I feel like a lot of people have seen more people talking about it lately, but I brought it up 2 years ago, how LeBron being this good, this late in his career is actually making for a challenge for the Lakers. It's making it more challenging to put together a championship team because it's like, dude, you're so old, but like you're so good. And it's like, should we play through you? Should we rest you? Should we give them? But it's like, you're still so good. So it's like, all right, LeBron, just take us. But it's like, but then he's 37. We can't play through him that much. So it's a challenge, right? So the challenge is putting the exact right kind of players around him, right? Is it super team? Do you just, try to get, Trae Young? Do you just try to get another super team for LeBron? You know what I mean? Or do you try to, like, people love bringing back the 2020 Lakers with their last ring, Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, Danny Green, like complementary role guys who do their role, know their job, a good combination of veterans, young guys, athleticism, size, IQ. Like that was the perfect surrounding around LeBron and AD at that time. LeBron wasn't as old, of course, as he is now, but like that was the idea, is like, can you can you supplant him with the right kind of stuff where he doesn't have to do all the work? Diana Taurasi would not have a chance at a championship this year if she was still trying to be a top 5, top 10 player in the league. So you go get a top 10 player in the league who, like I said, can do the volume scoring work. DT can still go off. She can still have her nights. She can still be, I mean, she's still DT, but you have a perimeter player, not just another, you know, her and BG were that duo. They want to, you know, they got their ring, you know, what, 2016 or 2017, but having Kahleah Copper is the best, most explosive perimeter guard player that Diana Taurasi has played with since Cappie Pondexter when they won their first 2 rings together in 07 and 09. And, you know, big coincidence, likely enough, Kahleah Copper, Cappie Pondexter, both out of Rutgers, right? So that Rutgers connection, you already know, how, you know, it always comes through on this show, but it's interesting, you know, the last time I saw DT really, I feel like at her best was when she was running up and down and that system with Paul Westhead with Cappie Pondexter, Penny Taylor, run and gun. That was the 7 seconds or less of the WNBA, if people really remember. And seeing Kahleah Copper out there with DT really reminds me of that. And it's a breath of, it's a way to give DT another shot at really competing for a title with that kind of elite perimeter player next to her, and then these really good complementary pieces around them. And then again, I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing from the spacing and the system that Nate Tibbetts has put in place.
The roster construction in Phoenix so far looks like it's been incredible. And there's another roster in the WNBA that's also been working pretty well to start the season, and that is, of course, the roster in Chicago Sky under newly minted head coach Teresa Weatherspoon. You talked about the Chicago Sky a bit on the Basketball Society podcast. Let's toss to a clip from that.
I feel like Chicago is going to be a do it by committee situation. I don't think Chicago is built or even needs her to be the number one option. I don't think Chicago and Teresa Weatherspoon, I don't think they're the type to look at anyone as a number one option. They want to build a cohesive, tough-minded roster that's productive on both ends. I don't see them as like pouring into the stardom of Angel Reese. She's our number one option. We're going to her. Angel can do a lot of different things to impact the basketball game.
The Chicago Sky, Martin Soares, are you buying or selling them as a playoff team right now?
I see a playoff team. Yeah, for sure. And the craziest thing is we haven't seen them with Camilla yet. Not really. That's going to be the coolest thing. And you kind of talked about in the last segment when we see a team do well without one of their best players.
Right.
And we're assuming Camilla will be one of their. And that's what I talked about in that clip. It's like that's what's cool about their team is that they're definitely taking on that identity. That was my prediction. That was that was after the draft. That was before preseason. Like that was me, and I was reacting to some people asking and wondering like about, you know, is Angel Reese really a number one option? Is she going to be the best player on the team? I'm like, that's not Teresa Weatherspoon's gig. That's not based. If you're looking at the roster, if you're thinking about that coach, that's not what they're not drafting her in there to give her the ball to be a volume scorer. That's not even her game. Them drafting her and Camilla made a lot of sense for when you start to look at it. It's like, wow, they're putting together just a very cohesive roster. Good guards that can score, that can defend, that are scrappy, different, you know, like I have said, I think they have maybe the most, we talk about underrated, and I brought up Marina Mabry, but as a guard unit, they might have the most underrated 3-guard unit in the league with Marina Mabry, Dana Evans, and Kennedy Carter off the bench. Kennedy Carter is a flat-out bucket. Marina Mabry, flat-out bucket, very crafty and creative. Dana Evans gives you a little more playmaking and quickness off the bounce. So between the three of them, there's a lot to guard there with the Chicago Sky. And then you've got your bigs down there. Liz Williams battles. Angel Reese is battling, figuring things out. This is all without Camilla. You've still got, like, we were talking about Chicago the other day, and I'm like, dude, listen to the names on their roster. Listen to their personnel. They've got good players across the board. Diamond DeShields, right? Like they just have good players. Yeah. So when we see Camilla get back, like, I don't see how that couldn't be a playoff team. Absolutely. Because we see them buying in. They're able to score points, right? They compete. They're taking on the identity of their coach. It's almost all there.
Yeah, and I agree. And the one thing that we talked about again too, just in that conversation about Chicago, is you look at this roster and without Camila Cardoso, I agree with you. This is a playoff team. Like if they don't, and obviously they're going to see Camila on Saturday. She's expected to make her debut on Saturday. But like if she doesn't play at all this season for whatever reason, this is still a team that can make the playoffs because you set Angel up to be in a position to be successful. If there's one thing that I've always talked about from a football standpoint is there's no need to rush your rookie quarterback onto the football field to be that guy if he's not ready yet. Teresa Weatherspoon and the Chicago Sky are not rushing Angel Reese, as you said in that clip, to be the number one option. They don't even want Angel Reese to be the number one option. They may never want Angel to be the number one option, and that's in her best interest because now, unlike, and you mentioned this to me the other day, unlike Caitlin, who is the only rookie in this draft that has to be the number one option on her team, the only one that's expected to be, and the only one that gets treated as such. You got other rookies like Cam and Rakia, Aaliyah Edwards, Alyssa Peely, Angel Reese, where there's so much talent around them that they get to take their time in this rookie season and do what they're expected to do as rookies. Make mistakes, learn from them, and be better. Angel Reese, bro, in 2022, led the nation in offensive rebounds. Last year, she led the nation in offensive rebounds. It's 2024. Angel Reese is in the WNBA, and she leads the league in offensive rebounds. The thing that she can do better than anybody, it seems, on the face of the planet. She's doing it again. And you're bringing in, and I said this to you the other day, you're bringing in someone in Camila Cardoso who is just as good of an offensive rebound. And so when you talk about that magic number of 90, and when you look at the bucket getting ability of a Kennedy Carter and a Marina Mabry, you look at the facilitating and the playmaking ability of a Dana Evans. You look at what Diamond DeShields can do. You look at what Liz Williams could do. Not to mention Camilla and Angel are both. They have that double potential. They both have the chance where at any given night, if they're hot, they can give you 20 and 15. They can give you 15 and 10, whatever it is. The Chicago Sky, especially once they get rolling, especially Camilla starts to, get that adrenaline, really starts to get pumping this season, we can start seeing them hit that magic number. And we can start looking at them, as being a legitimate, bona fide playoff team where right now it's like, we'll see, they look like it, but let's wait till Camilla gets there. Or in a month or two, we talk about, yeah, man, Chicago, you put them in the playoffs right now. And I know we're not at a point right now in the WNBA where you're talking about East versus West, but if you take a look at it, you look at the teams in the East, I mean, you got to
be in a good position if that were the case.
If this were the case, like you got, if I'm just
New York and Connecticut, and then probably Chicago.
It's probably Chicago right there after that. Like based on what we're seeing so far, and again, when you're ushering in a new era with a new head coach and basically like a new everything, and you've got these two young players who have all eyes on them because of what they did in college. It's not always in a young player's best interest to just throw them out into the middle of the stage. It's like, oh, your team now, go do it.
Yeah.
The Chicago Sky did not do that to Angel Reese, and they did not do that and they're not doing it to Camila Cardoso. And because of that, those two girls are going to get to grow, they're going to get to develop, they're going to get to learn, and they're going to become. You talk about Caitlin Clark affecting the game 3 to 5 years from now. They're going to really get to hit their stride and really make some things shake in the WNBA next 3, 4, 5 years because they have that trust and that confidence instilled in them now because they're able to make their mistakes without it costing the team because they're not expected to be the best player on the team from day one. So the sky is absolutely the limit for the Chicago Sky, no pun intended. And I love what I've been seeing from them so far. The first half of the season.
Yeah, and we I think they talk about it more on the NBA side, like the whole copycat league thing. I mean, everyone mimics who the champion creates the standard, and to some degree, you create a team to either counter them or a team that's similar to them in structure. Chicago, if you're looking at it, right? What do we know about? What do we always say about the Aces? You need three guards that can score. You need at least one very good big, maybe two. If team's only going to help, right?
Yep.
So I'm glad you brought that up. We had that conversation about because I was thinking about how you made great points about how it's not ideal for a rookie to roll the ball. Like, it's great experience. Yeah. Like, it's nice to be like a freshman. Like, we think about Hannah Hidalgo, Notre Dame All-American, was on the show last week, right? It was great for her, for Neil Ivy to say, hey, I'm giving you the keys. Like, sometimes it's great experience to be able to get that right away. It's not always ideal in terms of producing wins, or like it just all depends on like what the roster, where the program or the franchise is at that time. And it depends on the coach and the team and the system to like decide like what's the best way to go about that, but it's just not always ideal, because there's always an adjustment. And those the style, it's going to be interesting, because like Brent mentioned, like I was responding to someone's comment about Caitlin changing the game. We're going to see if the league takes on, because again, right now they're trying to take the mold of countering the aces. If Caitlin's style of play, now, yeah, I think we didn't get into like the basketball of the Indiana Fever, but like if they start to adopt that style of play, if they say, okay, Caitlin, we're really pouring into your system, we're going to move some players, we're going to make some adjustments, so like this system is really geared for, like, towards your style of play. One, is that going to produce win? Like, if they win with that, then that changes the league. Then other teams are going to want to push pace more, shoot more threes, right? Like, some of that is already happening, but that's how you start to change the fabric of like the game, when your style starts to impose itself on other people, right? It's going to be interesting, because Chicago style is not that. Chicago, again, kind of Vegas, but more, grit. It's Teresa Weatherspoon.
A lot more grit.
She wants inside play, paint touches, right? Like defensive play, right? And those are things that Vegas does as well. But to me, like they're just the ultimate standard of like high level on offense, high level on defense, right? So you need, going back to good guards that can score, got to be able to battle and defend on the other end as well, of course. Need athletes, need strong players on outside, on inside. You need at least one really good big. So Chicago following that model. Last thing I'll say real quick on Angel Reese. I had a quick conversation with I forget my girl's name on Twitter, but she does a great job breaking stuff down. She's got a podcast. She covers Miami Heat, I believe, and covers the W. We were talking about Angel Reese and just like her flat-footedness, and just as a basketball trainer and person and observer and stuff, I can't help but point it out. But the one thing I know, everyone talks about Angel's shooting, and it's a very nuanced, very specific thing if you've noticed when you watch her, but she's too good of an athlete to not be more graceful out there. The underhand scoop layups that she goes to, someone's got to get her off that. We got to get to overhand layups, sis. Like, I would, if I ever see Angel Reese do a 2-foot jump stop and a jump hook, I might cry. I would love to see that from her, because she has the touch. She's too strong. She has all the physical tools to take on a little more of a power game. And when I see her go up, sometimes I just see too much finesse. I see the underhand scoop layup. It's like, no, we gotta, even her feet. Like, it seems like, I don't know. Like, I was watching her warm-ups one day in one of the games, and I see her doing just like kind of typical catch, face up, rip, warm-up. And I'm like, yo, have her do that 100 more times. But I just want to see her hit that same strong rip, boom, jab, get to the middle, 2-foot finish over the top, fit, just the simple stuff like that I can't wait to see her. That's part of her development. I can't wait to see more of, because that's where you're going to see her become more of a number one option in spots. Like, we won't, she may become a number one option. That's based on the roster and how things go in the league and her personal development. That's what I said about Chicago on my show. I'm like, you're going to have to play your way into the number one option playing for Teresa Weatherspoon. Right now, it looks like Marina Mabry is kind of earning that. But you have to earn that. So Angel's game, it's still so raw. That's the crazy part about it, is that it's still so raw.
Martin Stories, it is about that time. A couple weeks ago, I came on this show with a new segment, the WNBA Tiers. There were 4 of them. This week, Martin Stories, there are 7 of them, and it's time to get right into it. On the bottom by themselves, unfortunately, it is the Washington Mystics, because they are the only team in the WNBA without a win, and we need to give it some time. There are a lot of changes happening with this Mystics team. As I alluded to, Natasha Cloud, no longer there. Elena Della Don, taking a year off as of right now. Shakira Austin, in and out due to injury. Brittany Sykes is currently out of the lab due to injury as well. They're going to get there. They played they've had some tight ones. Right now, the Mystics are struggling with closing games. That's what happens when 2 of your best players, both of whom happen to be closers, aren't there. They're going to get it together. They're not going to go this season without a win. Of course, that's coming sooner than later, but they have to give it some time. Right above them, I have the Fever and the Sparks, because they're still figuring out in two completely different ways. For the Fever, we're still figuring out Caitlin Clark, as Martin has so eloquently stated over the course of the show tonight, still figuring out how to play alongside Caitlin Clark and her style of play with the pace and the pushing the ball up the floor. For Aaliyah Boston, figuring out how to play alongside someone as talented and as gifted as Caitlin Clark. And for the coach, figuring out how to coach a player the caliber of Caitlin Clark. A lot to figure out in the end. They will figure it out, but it's still going to take some time. And then for the Sparks, they're getting there. I do think they are still figuring it out. We've seen Dearica Hamby so far over the course of the season emerge as the number one option, so to speak, on this team. I love what I'm seeing from Cam Brink. Love what I'm seeing from Rakia Jackson as well. She got the start tonight, but she's been lights out off the bench. They're playing the Fever again today. Ironically enough, they're both on the same tiers. Up one more level. We just finished talking about them. The Chicago Sky are just tough as nails, bro. And if they continue this, embodying that toughness that they get from Coach Spoon, they could be a playoff team, as we talked about. And again, Camila Cardozo expected to make her season debut, her rookie debut this Saturday. Can't wait. Right above them, the Storm, the Wings, and the Dream. They're stuck in the middle for multiple different reasons. For the Storm, they're still ironing out the kinks of having two fresh faces and iron out this big three. For the Wings, I don't know if they're waiting for Satu Sabali. I don't know what it is, but I just think until Satu's back from that injury, you won't be able to see them operate at their full playoff potential. We've seen Enrique drop a couple big ones. She had 40 points the other night, and I believe it was a losing effort, unfortunately. The Wings are still stuck in the middle, and then the Dream. Ryan Howard, give it to me. I want it. I want to see that toughness. I want to see that top 10 player that we're talking about. Martin's called Ryan Howard a underrated player in the WNBA, and right now the Dream are stuck in the middle. They're not great. They're not bad. All three of these teams stuck in the middle. Right above them, these are the three teams that are not far behind from the top two: the Liberty, the Lynx, and the Mercury. The Liberty, obviously, finals runner-ups last season. They've been playing great ball so far this season. The Lynx, Nafisa Collier has been amazing to start the season. Unfortunately, Diamond Miller is out indefinitely due to the foot injury. We hope to see her back soon. But the Lynx and the Liberty so far this season, not far behind. And then the Mercury, I can't quite put them on that next level. But we talked about Kahleah Copper. We've talked about DT and what they've been doing so far as a collective. The Mercury out of these three have definitely looked the most cohesive so far to start the season. And then tiers 2 and tiers 1, something's missing for the Aces. I know that they're looking like they could go for the three-peat, but we know that something is. It's Chelsea Gray. Up until the other day, the Aces have struggled to close games. Insert Jackie Young, who not too long ago, early in the season, regarded her first career points, assists, double-double. She's getting a little bit more fluid. She's getting a little bit more comfortable in that playmaking role, but we know who's at the top. It's the Connecticut Sun, the only undefeated team left in the WNBA. The Sun are alone at the top of Marcus's WNBA Tiers 2.0. Martin Sories, talk to me.
Yeah, I think it makes sense having Connecticut at the top, only undefeated team left. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think those are pretty good tiers. I think that you are being a little friendly on your Mystics with the name of that tier, talking about give it time until next year's draft. You know, people are on Twitter talking about they hope Paige Becker's like Sunday brunch because they're expecting to get the number one pick.
Sunday brunch is not a bad idea, man.
Not at all. But yeah, so we'll see how much time that takes. But yeah, it may be the whole season, maybe till the draft next season to give that time. But yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think you maybe could say something missing for the Mercury too, the fact that they don't have BG. But I think it's fair to put them like right in that tier, right below, along with New York and Minnesota. I think that made a lot of sense.
I appreciate you, my brother. The Marcus's WNBA Tiers, as we did last time, we will take that graphic and post on Instagram for your thoughts, because we always want to hear your guys' thoughts. Martin Sories, what a night. What a night, bro. Lots of great conversation about the state of the WNBA at this point as we're entering officially the third week of the season, so to speak, since the season did start 2 weeks ago today. A lot of great games on for the rest of the night. I know we guys had you guys during pretty much the first half of that Fever Sparks game. We'll definitely be checking out the end of that. But as always, thank you guys for watching. To everyone that commented live on the show, tuned in live on the show, much appreciated, much love. For all you guys that have watched this back after the fact, much love, much appreciated. For more content from Protect Our Queens and women's basketball, be sure to follow us on Instagram at @ProtectOurQueens_. And for everyone that tapped in with us via Instagram Live, thank you guys for tapping with us via Instagram Live as well. Feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment, follow us at @ProtectOurQueens_. Subscribe to Give a Shot Network for more women's basketball content from Protect Our Queens. And remember, if you don't like women's basketball, this is not the place for you. So for my brother in Christ, Martin Soares, this is Marcus of the Protect Our Queens podcast signing off. And as always, you guys enjoy yourselves some women's basketball.